All right, so are you ready to dive deep into biohacking?
Always. I'm fascinated by this stuff.
Me too. And you guys sent in some amazing videos this week,
You weren't kidding.
like DIY CRISPR kits and
Oh, yeah, those were interesting.
brainwave entrainment.
We even got one about a tech CEO's anti-aging routine.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's like a $2 million routine.
Really makes you think, huh?
It does.
Yeah.
So we've got scientific conferences, TED Talks, popular science YouTube channels.
It really runs the gamut.
Yeah, it's the whole biohacking buffet. So what do you say in this deep dive? We try to figure out what are the most promising biohacking techniques,
Sounds good to me.
what potential downsides we should watch out for,
Definitely important.
and what all of this means for the future of health and human potential.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So one of the videos you sent is from that Dave Asprey biohacking conference
Oh, right.
featuring Dr. Patrick Porter.
Yeah, what about him?
He's making some pretty bold claims.
Like what?
He says he can eliminate dementia in 6 weeks by boosting alpha brainwave activity.
6 weeks.
I know, right?
That's a bold claim.
It is. And he even outlines this 3-part training program.
Oh, really?
Yeah, using light and sound frequencies.
That's interesting. So that sounds a lot like brainwave entrainment.
Okay, so hold on. Eliminate dementia in 6 weeks. What's the science behind that? How does that even work?
Well, brainwave entrainment, what it does is it uses rhythmic auditory or visual stimuli to influence brainwave frequencies.
So like using sounds or lights to change your brainwaves.
Exactly. And there's some evidence it can be helpful for things like
Okay.
promoting relaxation or improving focus or even sleep.
But can it really cure dementia?
Well, the research is still pretty early,
Okay.
and the effectiveness can vary a lot from person to person.
So it's not exactly a guaranteed cure?
Not quite. It's more about optimizing brain function, and we don't really know the long-term effects yet.
Okay, so it's more like brain boosting than like a dementia cure.
Right. It's not a cure-all.
Okay, got it. But it's interesting though, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely promising. And Dr. Porter also mentioned this fascinating study from MIT
Oh yeah, what was that about?
where they used lasers and genetically modified mice.
Lasers and mice.
I know it sounds crazy, but they were able to reduce amyloid plaque.
What's amyloid plaque?
It's that sticky stuff that builds up in the brain and is linked to Alzheimer's.
Oh, right.
And they reduced it by like 80%.
80%. Wow. But wait, that's in mice, right?
Yeah,
So how does that even apply to humans? Can you use lasers on human brains?
that's the million-dollar question. It's a promising area of research, but what works in mice doesn't always work in humans.
Right, of course. There's a lot more complexity to the human brain.
Exactly. And there are a lot of ethical considerations with gene editing, especially when it comes to humans.
That's true. Gene editing is a pretty controversial topic,
It is.
especially when you start talking about changing human DNA.
Yeah, it gets tricky.
Well, speaking of gene editing, one of the videos you sent is about Josiah Zayner.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
The biohacker.
Yeah, he's become pretty famous for his DIY CRISPR experiments.
I've seen some of his stuff. He's really pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, his approach is totally different from those cautious MIT scientists.
It is. He's all about democratizing biotechnology, making it accessible to everyone.
Which sounds kind of scary when you think about it.
Well, there are definitely concerns about regulation and potential misuse.
It's kind of like giving everyone access to nuclear power without any safety protocols.
Yeah, it's a bit like that.
What could possibly go wrong, right?
The potential for unintended consequences is huge.
I can imagine.
CRISPR has amazing potential for good. Treating genetic diseases, developing new therapies, maybe even addressing climate change.
Yeah, I've heard about some of that stuff.
But in the wrong hands, it could be disastrous.
Like what kind of disasters?
Like, imagine some unforeseen ecological disaster or people using it to create designer babies.
Okay, yeah, that's a bit scary.
It's definitely something we need to be careful with.
So maybe we need to pump the brakes a little bit on the whole DIY gene editing craze.
Maybe just a little.
Okay, let's get back to brain optimization for a minute.
Okay, sure.
Not all of the videos you sent are about high-tech interventions.
That's true.
You also included a talk by Jim Quick,
Oh, yeah, the memory expert.
right? He emphasizes the importance of mental exercises for cognitive enhancement.
Like what kind of exercises?
Things like reading, learning new skills, even cold exposure.
Cold exposure for the brain.
Apparently so.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that we don't always need fancy technology to improve our brains.
Sometimes the simplest things are the most effective.
Exactly. Like challenging our minds and stepping outside our comfort zones.
It's like anything else, you have to work those muscles.
Right. use it or lose it.
Exactly.
So maybe instead of trying to biohack our way to superintelligence,
Right.
we should just focus on the fundamentals,
Like what?
like reading good books, learning new languages, and taking the occasional cold shower.
You know what they say, sometimes the old ways are the best.
And speaking of pushing limits, let's talk about reversing aging.
Okay, this should be interesting.
You sent us a video about Bryan Johnson.
Who's that?
He's a tech CEO who's spending $2 million a year.
$2 million?
Yeah, on an extreme biohacking regimen to become biologically younger.
Wow, that's commitment.
It is. We're talking a strict vegan diet, a mountain of supplements, high-tech equipment.
Sounds intense.
It is. The whole 9 yards.
So what kind of results is he seeing?
Well, his project blueprint is definitely ambitious,
I bet.
but the data from his hard reset experiment is pretty interesting.
It's that.
It's where he put a group of people on his plan for a month,
Okay.
and they had some pretty impressive results.
Like,
Weight loss, improved body composition, lower cholesterol,
that's great.
even a decrease in their biological age.
Okay, now we're talking.
Ah.
How do you even measure biological age?
That's where things get a little technical.
Okay, lay it on me.
They use something called epigenetic markers.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of those, but can you explain them?
Yeah, so basically epigenetic markers are like switches that can turn genes on or off.
Okay.
They don't change the actual DNA sequence, but they can influence how our genes are expressed.
I see.
And these markers are influenced by our lifestyle choices, environment, even our thoughts and emotions.
Wow, so everything we do affects our genes.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And as we age, our epigenetic markers change.
And that contributes to the aging process.
Exactly. So it's not just about how old we are chronologically, it's about how old our cells are acting.
Based on these markers.
Right.
So in a way, we're not just passively aging, we're actively shaping our own biological age.
That's what it seems like. It's both empowering and a bit daunting.
It is. It really makes you think about how much control we have over our own destiny.
Okay, so maybe not all of us can afford a $2 million biohacking setup like Bryan Johnson.
Yeah, that's a bit out of my price range.
But what about some more accessible biohacks? Well, you also sent us a video where Dave Asprey, the father of biohacking,
Ah, yes. Dave Asprey.
shares his top 5 biohacks.
I'm familiar with his work. What are they?
He's all about cold showers, blue light, blocking glasses, intermittent fasting,
Okay, those are pretty common ones.
sleep optimization, and gratitude practice.
Okay, so a mix of physical and mental hacks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool how he includes those mental and emotional practices.
It's a more holistic approach to biohacking.
Yeah, for sure. So I've got to ask about the cold showers.
Yeah, what about them?
I get the whole wakes you up thing, but is there any real science behind them?
There is. Cold exposure can stimulate the production of mitochondria,
Mitochondria. Those are...
the tiny powerhouses in our cells that generate energy.
Oh, right. So it's like giving your cells a jolt of energy.
Yeah, it's like a little wake-up call for your system.
Interesting. Okay, what about those blue light blocking glasses? I see everyone wearing them these days.
Yeah, they're pretty popular.
Are they just a fashion statement, or is there something to them?
They actually serve a purpose. You know how our devices emit blue light?
Yeah.
Well, blue light can mess with our sleep cycle
Yeah.
by suppressing melatonin production.
Melatonin, that's the sleep hormone, right?
Right. So wearing blue light blocking glasses in the evening
Okay.
can help reduce your exposure to that blue light and improve sleep quality.
So it's like tricking your brain into thinking it's sunset even if you're staring at your phone.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
all about creating a sleep-conducive environment.
Okay, that makes sense. What about intermittent fasting? I've heard a lot about it.
It's definitely a trendy one.
But the idea of skipping meals makes me nervous.
It's not really about starving yourself.
Okay.
It's more about giving your body a break from digestion.
So how does that work?
Well, by strategically timing your meals,
Uh-huh.
you allow your body to focus on other processes like cellular repair.
Okay.
And it can have some benefits like boosting energy levels or improving cognitive function.
Really? So it's like hitting the reset button on your body.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, the next one on Asprey's list is sleep optimization.
We all know sleep is important.
Yeah, but how do you actually improve sleep quality? I feel like I've tried everything.
Well, besides the usual stuff like avoiding blue light and having a relaxing bedtime routine,
Right.
there's one tip that might surprise you.
What's that?
Raising the head of your bed slightly.
Really? Why?
It sounds strange, but it might help with something called the glymphatic system.
The what?
The glymphatic system, it's basically your brain's waste removal system.
Oh, wow. So it like cleans out your brain.
Pretty much. And it's most active during sleep.
Okay.
So raising your head slightly could help it work more efficiently.
That's fascinating. Like giving your brain a power wash while you sleep.
Exactly.
I love it. Okay, and the last one on Asprey's list is gratitude practice.
That's a good one.
It seems a bit less bio and a bit more mind, though.
It might seem that way, but gratitude actually has physical effects on the body.
Really? How?
Well, focusing on things you're grateful for can lower stress levels,
Okay.
improve your mood, and even boost your immune system.
Wow, so it's not just about feeling good, it's about actual health benefits.
Exactly. Gratitude is powerful.
I like that. Okay, so Asprey's all about these positive lifestyle changes.
He is.
But even with these seemingly accessible biohacks, too much of a good thing can be bad, right?
That's true. You have to be mindful.
Like you sent us a TEDx talk by Martin Kremer,
Oh, yes. What about him?
where he talks about his own experience with biohacking
Uh-huh.
and how over-optimization led to some negative consequences.
Like what?
Mood swings, fatigue, increased stress.
So he was pushing himself too hard.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that biohacking should be about balance.
And self-awareness.
Right, you have to listen to your body and find what works for you.
It's not about blindly following every trend.
Or trying to become superhuman,
Right. It's about finding that sweet spot where you're challenging yourself.
but not overwhelming your system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so far we've mostly talked about the potential benefits of biohacking.
The good stuff.
But what about the potential downsides?
The not so good stuff.
You sent us a video by Dr. Brad Stanfield.
I don't think I know him.
He titled his presentation, Why I Hate Biohacking.
Wow, he really goes for it.
He does. He goes through 5 examples of popular biohacks that he thinks are questionable.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are they?
Well, his first example is cold water immersion after resistance training.
Oh, like ice baths.
Exactly. I always thought ice baths were good for recovery,
A lot of people do.
but he seems to disagree.
What does he say?
He says that recent research suggests that cold water immersion might actually hinder muscle growth.
Really?
Yeah, by interfering with the body's natural muscle-building processes.
That's interesting. So maybe skip the ice bath if you're trying to bulk up.
That's what he recommends. What's
Yeah.
his next target?
Let's hear it.
Okay, he takes aim at the use of metformin for non-diabetic patients.
Metformin, isn't that a diabetes medication?
It is, but some people are taking it to try to increase lifespan.
Oh, right. I've heard about that. Like a longevity hack?
Exactly. But Dr. Stanfield is not convinced.
Why not?
He says that while some animal studies suggest metformin might have some anti-aging benefits,
Okay.
the human research is far less conclusive.
So we don't really know if it works for humans.
Not really. And plus, metformin can have side effects.
Right. So for non-diabetics, it might not be worth the risk.
That's his point.
Mhm.
Okay, next on Dr. Stanfield's hit list,
Okay, go on.
antioxidant supplements.
Oh, those are a classic.
Right. I used to think popping vitamin C pills would ward off all sorts of diseases.
A lot of people believe that.
But Dr. Stanfield says that excessive antioxidant supplementation can actually be harmful.
How so?
He says that our bodies need a balance of oxidants and antioxidants.
Okay.
And too many antioxidants can disrupt that balance.
So it's like anything else, you need moderation.
Right. It's like trying to put out a fire with too much water.
You might end up flooding the house.
Exactly. Okay, what else does he have a problem with?
I'm all ears.
Testosterone injections,
Ah, yes. Those are becoming pretty popular.
especially among men concerned about aging.
I can see why.
But is it really a fountain of youth?
Well, Dr. Stanfield says that while testosterone therapy can be helpful for men with clinically low testosterone levels,
Okay.
it's not a magic bullet for aging.
And it can have side effects.
It can. Mood swings, acne, prostate problems.
So definitely not something to mess around with without talking to a doctor.
For sure. Hormones are powerful stuff.
What's his final gripe?
I'm ready for it.
Continuous glucose monitoring, or CGM?
What's that?
It's where you wear a device that constantly tracks your blood sugar level.
You've seen ads for those.
Uh,
But if you don't have diabetes, why would you need that?
That's what Dr. Stanfield is saying. He thinks it can lead to unnecessary anxiety and food restriction.
How so?
He gives an example of a patient who became obsessed with avoiding any glucose spikes.
Even though she was healthy.
Yeah, it's like focusing on a tiny scratch on your car while ignoring the fact that the engine needs an oil change.
You're missing the big picture.
Exactly. Dr. Stanfield's point is that we should be prioritizing those foundational health practices, like a balanced diet, regular exercise, stress management,
Right, the things we know work.
instead of getting distracted by all the trendy biohacks.
It's easy to get caught up in the hype.
So we've really gone deep into this biohacking stuff today.
We have, from gene editing to brainwave entrainment to cold showers and gratitude.
It seems like there's a biohack for Just about everything.
It's amazing to see how much this field has grown and how it's changing the way we think about health and human potential.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's blurring the lines between technology, self-improvement, and medicine.
And it's forcing us to ask some tough questions about what it means to be human.
Like if we can enhance our brain, slow down aging, even modify our genes, where do we draw the line?
Exactly. What are the limits? And what are the potential consequences for individuals and society?
One thing that really struck me while watching these videos is the issue of accessibility.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Right now, a lot of these biohacking technologies are really expensive
Definitely.
and only available to a select few.
It's kind of like a biohacking elite.
Right. But what happens when these technologies become more affordable and widespread?
That's a good question. Will we see a widening gap between the bio-haves and the bio-have-nots?
It's a real possibility. And it's not just about access to technology, it's about education and critical thinking.
Absolutely. People need to be able to make informed decisions about their own health.
Right. Otherwise, they're vulnerable to all sorts of misinformation and potentially harmful practices.
Like those questionable biohacks that Dr. Stanfield was talking about.
Exactly. We need to be careful not to fall into the trap of thinking there's a quick fix for everything.
There's no magic bullet.
Right. Biohacking should be seen as a complement to traditional healthcare, not a replacement for it.
I think that's a really important point.
It's about finding that balance between embracing innovation and being cautious.
Yeah, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Exactly. So as we continue to explore this world of biohacking, it's crucial that we stay informed.
And think critically.
Yes. And engage in open and honest conversations about the ethical implications of these technologies.
Because the future of biohacking is ultimately in our hands.
That's a powerful thought. It's a future that demands a lot from us.
It does. Careful consideration, thoughtful debate, a commitment to individual empowerment and collective well-being.
Well said. Well, that was quite a deep dive into biohacking.
It was. And it's clear that this is just the beginning.
Yeah, who knows what the future holds. But one thing's for sure, biohacking is going to continue to challenge our assumptions and push the boundaries of what's possible.
And it's going to be fascinating to see where it takes us.
I agree. To our listener, thank you for joining us on this exploration of biohacking. It's a complex and evolving topic.
But one that's definitely worth paying attention to.
And who knows, maybe this deep dive has sparked some ideas for your own biohacking journey.
If so, remember to approach it with curiosity, a healthy dose of skepticism, and a commitment to your overall well-being.
That's great advice. All right, until next time, keep diving deep and stay curious.